we wanted to make this video so that we could take an opportunity to tell you a little bit more about Name Free Ministries. You might have seen stuff on social media or been to one of our events so far, but we haven't really had the chance to tell you what this is and why we're doing it. So we want to take some time to do that. Maria, can you share more?
Yes, I can. So Name Free Ministries really just comes from our motive is freedom found in Jesus Christ, and we believe that we've been forgiven of our sins, and Jesus did that by dying on the cross. But then the freedom piece comes in when we take the forgiveness that we've been given, and then we just go walk in the freedom that Jesus intended for us to walk in. In John 10, it talks about how Jesus came to give life and give life to the full. And we don't believe that was just meant for heaven. Heaven is a full life on a whole other realm, but he came to give us a full life here while we're here on earth, and that looks like freedom. And so we want to tell you about that and talk about that, and we want to do it by changing the way that we talk about sin.
Yeah, absolutely. So then whether it is a worship night or a Bible study or an online discussion forum, everything that we do here at Name Free Ministries is motivated by changing the way we talk about sin. And we're really excited for you to join us on that.
So I've really been thinking a lot about freedom lately. And I've had this idea, I've always thought about freedom and forgiveness together. But something that I've realized just in my own life is I have accepted the forgiveness that was offered to me by Christ. But I was still living in all the shame and guilt of the things that I did in my past. And it became very apparent that I was not living in the freedom. Because if I was living in freedom, there wouldn't be all this shame, all this guilt, all this anxiety of what other people are thinking of me, fear of what they're gonna find out. Like, there just wasn't the freedom piece there. And so I've really been thinking about this idea that freedom can be accepted, forgiveness can be accepted, but freedom never be walked in. And what a terrible way to live. Like, I would never want that. I don't want it for myself. It was a terrible way to live. Like, I had so much fear and anxiety because I wasn't walking fully in the freedom that Jesus gave me. I mean, sure, I accepted that he forgave me, and I was thankful of that. But the freedom piece, that's a different story. That's a different thing. To accept that,
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's really easy to think about freedom and assume that you need freedom from this terrible sin that you've committed, or this addiction that you have, or some sin that you're living in that's really big. And the reality about living freely in Christ is that, it might be because you were raised in a Christian home and that you don't even realize the things you've inherited, like judgment or just these false belief systems about what being a Christian looks like, that it needs to look just like this and fit in this box, and you have to have this judgment and these ideas and this level of Bible knowledge. And
I would never do that.
Exactly. And I think freedom from that, that's the Jesus we know. The
right.
Jesus that gives you freedom from those ideas and helps you to realize that being Christian doesn't look perfect. It doesn't need to look a certain way. And sometimes like those belief systems are something that you need to be free from. So yeah.
Absolutely. And that's pretty much what Named Free exists to do. There's so much shame and guilt when you keep sin secret and quiet in your lives, and there's a freedom and a power when you talk about it.
It grows.
Yeah. It gets worse and worse. And so as we hope to change the way we talk about sin in a safe environment, a loving environment, I hope to just bring more freedom to people to break free from the secrets and the shame that they don't need to carry around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And for me, and just what God brought me from is I actually did deserve the judgment and the harsh wrath of God, for lack of a better word. I deserved it. Yeah, we all do. But it's like that thing that I did, I really felt like, yeah, I do deserve it. But that's just not how he dealt with me. And And I get that there's this idea that maybe our generation exaggerates God's grace. And we don't talk about his wrath, but I don't know what else to say other than he just didn't do that with me. Like, he was gracious with me. Like, I owe him my life.
Yeah.
I owe him my life. He's giving me a not just a second chance. He's just giving me the chance without like.
The other thing our generation does is present a picture perfect life to the world. And some of the need to talk about the things we're feeling shame or the sin in our lives is recognizing, but also just helping everybody to feel free to share their sin, share the stuff that's just really weighing them down. We are not living picture perfect lives. None of us deserve what Christ did for us on the cross, but we want to create an environment where we can talk about it. We can have conversations that are hard, but that are important.
And we can talk about it in the present. I think, we think there was sin and then there's freedom, and it looks different. And the reality is that we live with sin today.
Like, it's not before and after.
Right. And so we're not just saying let's talk differently about the sin that's in our past, but let's talk about the sin that we deal with now. Because the reality of living in the flesh, as a person who wants to follow Jesus, as a woman who wants to follow Jesus, we're still going to have those struggles. They're still going to happen, and that doesn't mean that we don't get to be Christians. It doesn't mean we don't deserve his grace. It's exactly the opposite. And so giving ourselves the freedom to talk about the things that we struggle with now and seeing that, like, that's the God we want to follow, that's the God that sets us free.
And it doesn't mean not only that we don't get to be Christians, but it also doesn't mean that we don't get to walk in our call. I think that is something that we believe we stay on the sidelines just thinking, okay, I'll go when I get my act together. Like, why do I keep sinning? Why do I keep doing this? I'm never gonna get it. But we need to understand that we get it when we move in faith, even in our failures, even in our insecurity, even in our fear.
Absolutely.
Like, God, that's when we get it. That is when we get it. When we move in faith, even though we're crappy. I mean, we are crappy. And it's not just like the things Instagram pictures show you, like, oh, I'm a terrible mom today, or oh, I have a messy home. Like, no. Like, I gossiped about somebody that I love, and I'm struggling with it. Like, that kind of stuff.
And
like,
I
get real.
lying straight to your face about X, Y, and Z because it makes me uncomfortable to tell you the truth. I mean, yes, those things are daily things we struggle with. And I just, we're going to provide a space where we can have conversations.
It's okay to talk about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely okay.
Encouraged to talk about it.
And we believe that we can do that by changing the way that we talk about sin, where there's no more of this shock. I mean, all three of us have said, okay, are you shocked by sin? I mean, is there anything that you two are going to find out, or I'm going to find out from somebody that would make us go, oh, God's grace doesn't reach that far? And all three of us, can you not say, no? There is not one thing that we believe, no matter how big or how little, that we don't believe that God's grace and forgiveness reaches to. And so we believe that we can do this by changing the way that we talk about sin, and we're going to here at Name Free. We're changing it.